Hello, everyone. Welcome back to VFX and Chill. We didn't ask who talks first. I just decided I was going to. Sorry about that, Hash. How you doing?
Love it. I am doing great, Setherson. How are you?
I'm good. I like your glasses better than mine. I like the size. Mine feel a little bit like mid-aughts, late 90s, cool guy art black frames, and yours feel like my actual glasses, like the kind of size I prefer.
Like full frame, like hastily made out of a coffee box just before the show style. Are really the.
You hear that, guys? Daniel Hashimoto makes his own anaglyphic 3D glasses.
I do. You can just tape together some spare gels you've got lying around, even if they're not actually red, but you tried to make them reddish.
It's incredible.
So you could see the images you were making. But anyway, Seth, as we have hinted in our intro here, we're going to be doing all sorts of weird, somewhat 3D, somewhat, we're going to do some interesting stuff with depth.
Yes, we are.
Which should be kind of fun.
So this was born from, well, first off, we owe an apology to our audience. If you subscribe, which you should subscribe to Maxon's, actually, Michael, use the right terminology here real quick. Email.
Yes, email is the good term.
Subscribe
Electronic mail, if you prefer the long form version.
What you should do is basically go to maxon.net, find yourself an email to subscribe to, and subscribe to it. And chances are you're going to get an email once a week that gives a heads up on upcoming live shows from the rest of the training team. Shows like Ask the Trainer, a Maxon Color, several shows that we are big fans of and that you should watch if you watch us. And there's a little summary in those emails saying. Giving people a heads up about
what's coming up,
what our show is going to be about. And does either of you know what we promised the people in that last email?
So there was an audience request that I don't remember what social or whatever it came in through, but it was to cover what's his name in What We Do in the Shadows, the baby
John, What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes, it is a. Basically a head replacement character where the however year old actor is.
It's going great.
This is going so good. We are experts in our field.
Basically a head on a baby.
Head on a baby, and then a toddler, and then basically all the ages of a different body, but the same grown up man head on them.
Yeah, and Maxon sent out an email saying that we were going to be covering head replacements and such today.
And honestly, if you'd like to see how to do a great head replacement, I invite you to watch any of our But with Raptors specific episodes. Yes. Because we lay the groundwork for the standard pipeline of replacing a face and in many cases tracking said case. But the What We Do in the Shadows example is basically they filmed a keyable character's head in a location with a similar of lighting as they can to the child performer that's wearing a little green mask. And
Hashi,
then
I love
they do it the most.
I love that we're not going to cover that today, but real quick, Hashi will just explain to you how it's done. So I
just want to make sure that if you came here via email, as many of you do, I'm sure I didn't want you to miss out.
Interestingly enough, Trent Jacobs has the first time that they've joined live, and they say they just got the depth scanner type plugin, so they may be really ready for today's episode.
Oh, well, that sounds lovely. Well, so we're going to cover several things today that involve getting depth out of sources that don't come with depth to begin with. And once again, we're going to be relying on our friend AI to accomplish some of this, which is kind of cool. You don't need AI to do this, but it's tremendously helpful. And now Adobe has a couple of things that make it very easy to translate into something that you can do in After Effects.
Hashi, will we be using any third-party plugins?
Some really cool stuff on the social media this week.
Yeah.
I especially like the product shot with the shoe, because that looked like eminently useful.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to switch over to my headphones as long as it doesn't mess with my look too much. I don't know. But
everything Hashi's going to show today is extremely practical and really cool. And it's honestly, it's a process that I am surprised I haven't seen anywhere else before. Like, it honestly gets it takes a plugin, a tool that we've had, that Red Giant's had for many years, and suddenly gives it this utility, this like very practical use that I've not seen used anywhere else, that to me almost like redefines the product for me, like the possibility and potential of the product for me.
Well, I definitely, yeah. So like off the top, in terms of that use of it, I want to absolutely say that I was 100% inspired by the presentation that Chad Perkins did at Adobe Max for Maxon, which utilized this exact pipeline. Some incredible possibilities, and I just hadn't really played around with it myself. And then once I did, I realized, oh man, this is so much fun. And so yeah, Chad, you're amazing. And yeah, if you haven't seen any of Chad's tutorials on the Maxon channel, get over there. Do that.
Get over there.
So I'm going to open up a couple examples over here. I'm just trying to remember where I've saved them all. Let's see.
Where to go to you?
Was it his? What is it? His creating magical effects in After Effects with Trapcode 1?
No, it was. I don't remember what it would have been called, but it was using AI generated art and then enhancing it in After Effects to add some animation and kind of cool effects. I should have absolutely found that link ahead of time. It's almost like we work at the same company, and I could have asked, but you know.
If only there was a way to communicate with Chad right now.
Communicating is frustrating.
You good for me to go to your screen?
Yeah. Come on over to my screen, everybody. Welcome to After Effects. I'm saying that out loud just to make sure people know that I'm working inside After Effects. But last weekend,
that little spaceship looks really cool with our logo. Like, go a little bigger with it and look at our OBS feed. Those blend nicely together.
Oh yeah. So I was missing specifically playing the Sierra game Space Quest, and so when I was in, I was over in my little Stable Diffusion build, which is an AI generative art thing, in case that's not a familiar term to you, and I was just trying to generate some cool spaceship interiors that felt a little bit like the artwork that probably went into the VGA graphic, like Sierra background kind of things, and came up with this thing. And I kind of like it because I liked the piece of art that got generated to begin with, which let me see if I can find the original painting here. I think it looked like, I have a folder on our server just called Hashi's Weird AI Stuff, which is just the best. So if you're ever looking for something ridiculous,
it makes
that was
up about
done
85% of his hard drive's uses right now.
Check it out. It's that and 1998 pictures of Seth Worley.
I didn't know you had pictures of me from 1998.
I have exclusively pictures of you from 1998. So I generated this awesome image, and it's weird. It's definitely got AI brain behind it, but I wanted to see how much you could push it into something like that. And so, here's the animated version again with that's how do you get centered again? So, with some little bleeps and bloops and stuff and some depth and kind of flying through it a little bit. So we're going to teach you how to do that technique. And that's basically what we're here to do. So
I'm excited. And Hash, will you be able to actually make that what you make here 3D for the audience to put on their anaglyphic 3D glasses and see?
I actually could, because this is a Mir setup. I'll have to do it manually because I've lost my 3D set of tools that I used to use to put these together. But I'm going to write some, I think. And
what were those set of tools you used to use?
I used to use one that was just called, like, a very simple one that was called like Stereo Tools for After Effects or something.
Was this at DreamWorks?
This was at DreamWorks.
Okay.
We found that, used it a bunch, and then we liked it. And so we got one of our developers on the Adobe SDK to build our own version of it, which had that plus other features. it was a little bit the beginning of me realizing that you could end up with something like the Whirly Scripts panel, which I don't know if you have available, but the Whirly Scripts panel you showed off last week, and it's a
right here.
Delightful, yes. Look at that. So we had our very own stereo set of tools that looked, was built with the After Effects UI to look like that.
Nice.
Anyway, I'm blabbing a bunch. Let's talk through
what we're here for.
What we do. All right. So say you were online and you found an image that you liked, like this, and you're making, I don't know, a coffee commercial or a cafe commercial or something like that for this specific thing.
I'm making a coffee
I really
commercial.
thought that was alphabet soup for a split second.
It might be alphabet soup. Who knows? But you maybe you have, someone had made a promotional photo or a poster or something like that, and then you as an artist are getting that existing artwork, and that's all you have. And they're like, make it so it'll play on a bus bench or something like that, and you've got to make it more interesting. Well, you could zoom.
So it will play on a bus bench.
That where they have those TV screens, where you that you sit on.
No.
And then you ride a bus.
Hashi, what is Canada like?
These are
sounds
real
wonderful.
terms.
Canada sounds like Tomorrowland.
Canada is fantastic. And you know what? Yesterday, Groundhog Day, was my 1-year anniversary of being allowed to cross over into Canada. So
yay!
Yay. So we've lasted this long. So
congratulations. I don't have any drop to celebrate that, so I'll just do
Field Force.
Feels like appropriate.
Oh, yes. Canada's very behind the field forces. We have a field force of a temperature drop going from 30 to negative 19 between 6 p.m. and nighttime. It's going to be fun.
Well, that sounds like you're about to
freeze.
We had a drop for it. Anyway, I love you all. Thank you so much. It's so fun to hang out with you all. So, say your annoying boss,
your co-host with drops
says hey, we want to put a video on a bus bench, and you're like, they don't put videos on bus, and he's like, I'm pretty sure they do, and you end up doing something. I'm going to resize this image real quick just because I don't want to work with absurd numbers today.
To 3 pixels by 2 pixels.
3 by 2 pixels. So say you have this image, and this is all you have to start with. Well, one of the coolest new features in Photoshop, are the neural filters. And if I go down to neural filters, you'll see that there are a handful of them over here. And I believe that we've covered this specific one on the show before.
Yes.
But down here is this filter called depth blur. And this picture actually already has some depth blur going on. But if I turn this on, you won't really see much happen. But as soon as I add a dot over here, you'll see that what it tries to do is it tries to focus on whatever dot you've selected over in this panel over here. Or I can try to focus maybe back on the shoulder, throwing this out of focus. So it's a neat idea. And the way that it works, this is a difficult image because it already has a soft focus built in, but it's working on top of a depth mat in case you've ever used a camera blur in conjunction with a depth mat. But I was like, I just want the depth mat. And someone pointed out to me that there's a checkbox right here that says output the depth map only. And as soon as I say that, look at this. Now, if you're not familiar with a depth map, it is a map of the depths in your image. So that's what that is. So what we've got here, I'm just going to go ahead and say, okay. You don't really have any options in Photoshop. Welcome, Jason Murphy. It is okay that you're late because Hashi is barely getting around to the subject matter. Jason Murphy, thank you very much for all of your pointing out and helpful hints of AI tools. Jason and I chat on Twitter, and Jason is like a couple months ahead of me in knowing what is out there.
Yeah, he freaking pays for ChatGPT. Sorry, that was information personal information I didn't need to share.
And here's where he lives.
And here's his zip code. No, that means you're going hardcore if you got to pay for it,
That's some
I didn't know
good
you
use
could.
out of that stuff. All right. So we've got our depth map that was created, and the cool thing is that it created it on this separate layer up here, layer 1. So now we have an image and we have this depth map. And I'm going to just rename these for my purposes so we can just read them easier later. Let's call this image, and then we'll make this one depth. So now we have both of these married together. Now, the way a depth map is supposed to work is you can see that the stuff that is white is supposed to be the far, far background. And the stuff that is dark here is the far, far foreground. It could be inverted too. It depends on who you're dealing with. But this is how we've created it. Now, one thing that I notice, and just right away, you can sort of look at a depth map and know if it's going to work well or not. When I look at this, I see that the cup of coffee definitely ended up in front, and that's great. It should. But to me, it feels like there's a lot of difference between just the very edge of her hand here and the arm that's visible behind it. So I think that we need increased curves back here for this stuff. But I don't mind the way the coffee cup itself got extracted. So I'm going to do a little bit of modification of this depth map in here. I'll just select this area, and let's see. I'll do it a very boring way. Image or filter. What am I trying to do? Photoshop. I don't work in it often enough.
If you're looking to invert your selection, Control-Shift-I will do it.
No, I just wanted to feather it a little bit. Am I not? Why isn't it right there? Why isn't it select feather?
It's right there. Go back.
Oh. I'm just going to feather that a little bit, and I'm going to duplicate the hands up here. And then here on the rest of the image, I'm going to, I could probably just content-aware fill it, but I'm going to do this. This is the smudge brush on 100%. I'm just smudging everything inward for just a moment. Don't panic. What I'm doing is I want to darken the background, but I don't want there to be a dark halo because of this layer right here, see? So now I can take the background, go to my adjustments, and maybe throw some curves on here. And now I'm going to look sort of at this hand, which is definitely behind, it's not straightforward attached. It's a little bit behind, but not this far behind. So let's crush down these a little bit until we get something like that. I think this is actually more accurate to what the scene may be. And now on this layer,
you still have your selection happening because you've got a white halo.
I'm just going to select invert and just kind of delete that out. There we go.
Nice.
So now we've got this. I'm going to flatten that into the depth map. And so sometimes this might be exactly what Photoshop gave you to begin with, like something that was really nicely adjusted. It happened to not in this instance. Whatever. So I'll save this as a Photoshop file. We'll call it Coffee 3D. Spelled wrong, but,
How do you spell 3D?
Just the standard way you misspell 3D.
Yeah.
So let's jump over to After Effects now. So everybody, we're way over here in After Effects. So this is the beautiful, lovely Trapcode Mir. I've added Mir to a black solid in this comp. It's an HD comp right here. And now that we have the camera, this Mir object is a real 3D thing you can pan around and look at and stuff. And it's very possible you are a Maxon 1 subscriber and you've opened up Trapcode Mir before and you saw this and you're like, I don't get it. What's the point? And you're like, I don't need to simulate this thing. Well, Mir is actually pretty cool. And we probably have some amazing stuff. Oh, it's right there in the chat already. You can learn more about Trapcode Mir right there. But Mir is actually very powerful for the right kinds of things. And today we're going to use it for a very weird purpose. Let's import that thing that we just created. So we're going to go to, what's today's episode? Here we go. Cafe 3D. That's what we called it. I'm going to import it as a composition with its retained layer sizes. I'm going to do that twice, I guess. So here we are. And now we've got our two layers, our depth and our image. And anyone who's good at math, what is 1.3 to 2 ratio? What am I working with there? Is that 3 to 4?
3
No.
to 2.
It's 12,000 by 1,334. So is that 3 to 4?
Sure.
Not 3 to 4. 3 to 5. I don't remember.
I don't know.
All right. So I'm going to bring that in behind this coffee mug, and now it looks weirder. But I actually am just bringing them into the comp so Mir can look at them. I don't even need them to be visible. I'm going to turn them off now. Then I'm going to go to my Mir layer, which let's call Mir just to make it extra clear. Then I'm going to go up to my Mir settings. And right here under geometry is what determines what Mir is generating. It could be generating this plane that has a fractal distorting it, or you could actually import your own 3D model if you wanted to render it right inside of After Effects. But we're going to stick with this plane, but we're going to modify it a little bit. We are going to say that the size is, actually let's just match what the size of the image is. We'll say, instead of XYZ linked, let's say XYZ individual, and then we'll say 2,000 wide on the X and 1334 on the Y. So now you can see our sheet has expanded to fill up the whole scene. And you can see that these are kind of jagged little edges because this is literally a piece of geometry being generated once again. So if you look down here, you can see the number of vertices that are contributing to this fractal. And I don't need, like a vertice per pixel. That would be excessive. But I do want something kind of similar. So let's go with maybe 500 for this and maybe 120 for that. And now you can see there's a lot more detail in this fractal right here. It's a higher, it's just more subdivisions, more vertices, which is great. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, though. Let's say there. Why not? And then you can see all these wrinkles in here. The wrinkles are coming from the fractal setting right here. Right now it's at an amplitude of 50. If I turn that up, the fractal gets even weirder. And if you're in a top view like this, you can see that as you turn up the amplitude, it's a 3D fractal distorting this thing. There are some cool tutorials out there that make cigarette smoke using the edge of that, which is really cool. So again, don't overlook Mir when you're trying to figure out something graphic and cool in 3D with very little work from you. So now we've got all of these wrinkles are coming from this frequency being at 800. I'm going to turn it down to 0 and just go back to a nice flat plane. So there's no repetitions of a fractal. It's just this plane by itself. But then you can also see that the individual amplitude reacts to whatever your fractal is. That's why it was distorting in X, Y, and Z. And in this case, I only wanted to distort in Z. So I'm going to make amplitude X and Y 0, and that'll be helpful in just a moment when I do this next part. So now here's the fun part. Under material, instead of density, I'm going to say smooth surface. And then down under texture, instead of none, I'm going to select our image. And now look, suddenly, Mir is just basically reproducing that image right here on a flat plane. But we want to take it a step further. Now, we're going to go to our shader settings. I'm going to turn off ambient occlusion, or actually I'm going to turn just down the intensity to 0, and then minimize that again. Oh, I have a cat visitor. It is always good.
Hey, cat visitor.
Make sure. Do you want to say hi?
Me or the cat? Hi, cat.
Do you want to see E.T.? I'm doing a show right now, so I'll show you E.T. That terrified and made the other cat run away, but this one likes it. So
we
this
don't
cat
know
is
where
here to
that
stay.
came from. I don't think we saw the source of that sound, so it just came out of you. Ah, look at that. We both have ETs.
Both have ETs.
We both have ETs.
Here, go chase the thing. Get it. Want it? Get it. Kill it. And now, let's see, where were we? We're about to do the exciting looking part. So the cat interrupted the exciting part. So if I jump to this top view.
You say that, but the chat is very excited about the cat.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cat, you can come back for 1.5 hours. It refuses. So we've got So I'm going to go back up to my fractal setting because there's a cool little feature in here where you can designate an amplitude layer. And I'm sure you have guessed where this is going, but I'm going to designate the depth as the layer. And in fact, on top of that, I'm going to say it's effects and masks. And I'll tell you why in just a second. So now that we've got our image plugged in as the texture and the depth plugged in as the amplitude layer, watch what happens when I dial up the amplitude. Isn't that something? It's like a cool, so cool. Little cookie tin, where it really kind of comes cool. out. So I'm going to dive back to my to this standard camera view, and you can see that as I increase the amplitude of my Mir extraction, it's like it's simulating a dolly zoom effect.
That's really cool.
So I now have basically within this whole realm a really cool, I guess I could make this bigger on screen, 3D representation of whatever was there before.
And this is all with the use of Mir and what?
This is basically just using Mir. Mir is the only layer rendering here. And
just to be clear, all you need to feed into Mir is what?
Oh, yeah. All you need is an image and its AI-generated depth map.
A depth map?
And now... Mm-hmm.
That's all.
I love it. That was deep. And now we've got this. Now, you may have noticed that this is a little bit craggy. And it's, it's a depth map. It's a little bit that way by nature. And there are a couple of things that we can do to try to fix this jaggedness. One that I always think is pretty important to do is on the depth layer itself, even though it's not visible, I'm going to dive in and I say dive in so often and it drives me nuts when I'm listening to a recorded tutorial.
Oh, how
many times can they dive in?
We're not going down that road.
Dive is such a commitment. But I'm just going to add some fast box blur to it, and I'm going to blur it by, let's say, 5 pixels. And you can see that blurring it by 5 pixels just made all the transitions a little bit easier from one section to the other. And you could go with kind of as low a number as you could get away with. I'll try 3 pixels of blur, because the more or the less blur, the more definition. Like right now, you can see each of these fingers really sticking out, which is kind of cool. But there's a bit of jaggediness going on here. And that's because, again, it's an AI estimating its depth. It's not a real 3D model or anything like that. But you can use it in some really cool ways, like a 3D model, which is pretty cool. So let's go.
You have effectively turned it into a 3D model, because Mir is rendering
really have
3D geometry.
It's crazy. Yeah, this is 3D geometry. You can spin all around it. This is kind of wild. Here we get into some weird territory where you could make a whole video where you had this crazy landscape and people are like, what is that? It's some kind of alien thing like that. And you're like, no, it's actually
a hot dog? No, that's alphabet soup.
Cup of coffee. Drink it.
Delicious alphabet soup.
Yeah, delicious hot dog alphabet soup.
Exactly. So let's just check it out. So it's pretty cool. So this is a really fun in After Effects kind of effect that you can do using a depth map. And what's cool about the depth maps now is that they are basically accessible just by using Photoshop. You can apply them. And I think, I'm not 100% positive, but I think that this is running the Midas depth extraction algorithm to create that. And one other little note on detail and quality is, if I zoom in my camera here, am I on my custom camera? Oh, I want to go to my real camera. And let's see, here we go. So if I get a little bit closer, you can see that there are still some little crags and stuff like that. And originally I thought maybe that's coming from the number of vertices. Like if I had more vertices, more definition, you'll have smoother curves and things like that. But it turns out that there's a real diminishing returns on the vertices. So as I turn this up, it's increasing the resolution of the mesh a little bit, but I'm barely seeing less cragginess because of it. And it turns out that, a lot of the cragginess that I'm seeing is actually coming from the images themselves. It's a JPEG that I got online, and which means it's an 8-bit. And when I generated the depth map, it's also 8-bit. But the cool thing about all of After Effects' plugins, like Fast Box Blur, is that it's working in 32-bit, whatever the project is set to. So since the blur is happening that way, all I have to do is go click and turn the project to a higher depth. And now, let's see, I don't know if there was a drastic enough change that people could see on screen.
No, but you're telling me that just changing it to 32 bits is going to fix it. I would have spent 5 days trying to fix this.
It took me a while to hunt for this being the fix, but it's just, if you were working with a higher bit rate to begin with, which you probably should be if you're doing client work, all you got to do is increase the bit rate, and now you'll have a more defined blur, which makes it a more defined and smooth piece of geometry. Let me go to the depth map and just blur it a little bit more, and you can see that now I'm getting, at 100% zoom, very nice curves. Check it out. And another crazy thing about Mir, and this is also something that Chad Perkins was playing with, is that once you have this object in Mir, you can do some very crazy things. Like instead of rendering it like this, first of all, one cool thing you could do is that right now, if this were a pre-comp instead of just an image in here, like we can pre-compose it, leave all the attributes in here, and then whatever we want to do, we can do in a 2D setting. So we could say say this is a chill mug right here, and I can just dive into this 2D piece of art and do a perfect composite of this convincing chill logo right here. Whoops. Let's make it a multiply. Whoops.
Let's make
it. Look at that. High level.
So real.
So go buy this chill mug, available now. But you can do your
chill mug.
That's what it would look like if you designed it, Hash. This is, and I'm not insulting.
No. This is how it would look if I designed it, right?
And you got to stretch it too. And I'm not insulting Hash. Literally yesterday, he admitted to me, I hate fonts now. At one point I liked fonts, and now I hate them. And I think it's from knowing you. Literally said, I think it's from knowing you, Seth.
I think that I might have even used the word, like, I have a growing disdain for fonts the longer I know Seth Worley. And it is, fonts are fantastic. If fonts are your thing, that is great. But
I'm sorry our show is so well branded.
We're good. We're taking a font break.
I'll dial it back. Oh man, we need a font break. Drop.
Font break. But I'm sure all of you want to see, what does this chill mug look like if I could see it with more depth? It looks like that. So whatever you do in the 2D image is going to get translated right into your 3D image really easily. And that's a pretty cool thing to know. And if you were generating, you can see that what's happened from this dolly zoom kind of effect, by stretching this thing out backward in Z, the background is way smaller now than it was before. And it's as if we were being able to dial in the actual focal length of the camera. So check it out. As I play with the zoom, you start to get this kind of very dolly zoom kind of effect. And I realized that
this is how Hitchcock did it in Vertigo.
Exactly. They had an advanced copy.
Just fired up Trapcode Mir.
And how Roland Emmerich did it in Godzilla.
Threw it in. Here it is. Here's the clip right here.
See, I love that.
You can kind of tell right there that it's Mir.
I love that you push it far enough, you can get it to a Minority Report place. And it makes me...
I love that we both had that thought. Like, Minority Report and Contact have this effect where they create this cool like trail coming off of a person.
Oh man, I didn't even think about Contact.
Yeah. Except you need to film 2 performances, one of you being calm and one of you freaking out.
Yeah. Well, I do that every Monday. So I should have that somewhere. So
anyway, this was created with this process. So was, let's see, this one.
There it is. That's the one I wanted. I didn't see that. That's brilliant.
So yeah, fun times. You could also do something like, so here are just a few more random examples where I just tried running them through the same thing. I think you saw this. Here's another like AI generated art turned into 3D with some added elements. And the best thing is that you could just do all of this part as a 2D comp, but then you get it in 3D. And if you didn't want to do something so like artsy or whatever, you could go with something that is more like this. Let's see, what did I call it? I called it the dark credit loops. Here we are.
Look at those fonts.
Oh, this 100% is a Netflix. This is a Netflix show.
This is absolutely like this is
Woody
like
Bones
Neil Gaiman
Pine.
presents Skeleton on a Shelf.
I love it.
This is an AI generated piece of art with a depth map created also by AI, getting deformed by Mir. And so what I like about all of these steps is that I feel like they bring any image you want. So like as you can see, like this coffee mug for an advertisement. Let me open up where's my product shots example.
I love the shoe one.
Let's check out the shoe. The shoe. So yeah, that was exactly the same pipeline. I literally just went into, I guess I can show them in After Effects. In After Effects, found, where do we call them? In this shoe somewhere. Elements, where did I put the pieces of the shoe?
Pieces of the shoe.
Nope.
It's my
pieces
film.
of shoe. It's like a poor translation of the title, but like it's a really beautiful movie.
Yeah.
It's also like a really deconstructed look at the world of baking.
So just check this out. So this is from PX here.
Pastry.
Just a nice little image of a shoe. And I also ran. You can in Photoshop you can say select subject, and it'll cut this out for you, which is really cool. And you can also have Photoshop generate a depth map of this object, and that's a pretty stunning depth map. It looks very good to me. And the coolest thing is that when those are all combined together, you could end up with something like, let's see, do I have it rendered out so I can play it faster? Here we go.
Look at that crap.
Look at this. You don't even need to have a 3D model or like find and like build a 3D asset for something. If you're tasked with making an ad for a shoe. Shoe is my go-to. Like that's what I think every motion designer is doing. Yeah. It's a little bit of bias probably, or I don't know.
I've done some shoe spots.
You're either making a coffee shop or a shoe ad right now, if you're working. But the crazy thing is, let's jump into this because this is just, let's see. Oh, no, that's my creepy skull. So here is the After Effects comp with it. And what's wonderful about it is just, let's zoom up to, let me turn off my motion blur on that layer. Oh, check out how little this is actually a 3D model once you can see how much of it actually works. And I'm keying to have the
It's just ridiculous.
So over the course of time, what I'm doing is in Mir, I am keyframing how much it's being stretched out. So at the beginning of the shot, you can see my camera's right up against the toe of the shoe, and it's stretched out kind of to the maximum that it could be stretched out and still feel 3D. And the cool thing about it is you can
Let's try that again. Let's get a clean take of that one.
If you can see my camera's right up here on the toe, and this Mir object is really stretched out in 3D like that. But then as we scroll further toward the end, I actually flatten it out so it has the more proper proportions of the product shot that you came with. And what's kind of weird about the way that those combine is it kind of looks like, you're in a weird CG world where you can do something like alter the, how 3D something is. So
I think it's crazy. It looks for all the world like you had a 3D model of a shoe. Like that looks for all you picked wisely the kind of camera move and stuff, but it looks like a 3D model of a shoe. Like no one would question that.
And in case you're dubious about this, this setup, as soon as you technically have, let's see, this is my Mir shot. Let's see, let's go ahead and say, what do I want to do? I want to reduce this project. And in fact, this project is one that I could give away. I should give this one away. Oh, I had
give
the
it
wrong
away.
piece
Give
of
it away
footage
now.
selected. Give it away now. Okay, let's reduce this. It was called example 1, right? Okay, cool. Dependencies, reduce project. Let's make sure it's just this shoe that came from PX here. And then I have a pre-comp that is the image itself with a transparency behind it. And then the depth map.
Did you get rid of the product logo on the shoe?
Oh, I did actually. I erased the Nike and the thing. I'm actually recording this as a well-spoken tutorial, or better spoken tutorial, which is going to come out as a cheap tricks in a while. Just because, I know y'all like your cheap tricks. So let's do a quick preview of honestly how fast you could do this if you were doing this as client work or whatever. Let's move to the proper camera view. Like, look at that. It's so crazy cool. So I want from the audience, and I know there's a little bit of a delay here, but a mundane object that you needed to do an ad for. And I'm going to look up a picture of it on PX here, and then we're going to make it 3D.
Yeah, let's do it.
So minus the delay or whatever. Seth, as soon as we have selected an object, I feel like we could put a timer up. I don't know. What do you think?
I think we should put a timer up, and I also think that we should move our show into, are we ready to move into the take this 3D to the next level?
Ooh, almost. Let's do a sample audience-picked object. I don't know. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I can see the chat. Can I see the chat?
I can see the chat, and no one is talking.
No one's talking about anything.
Idiots.
Okay, well, I'm going to look through and see if there is
You're not idiots.
anything even matched.
A Lego figure, a minifig.
Okay. Lego figure.
A guitar. Frigby Chillweather is just as chill as you'd expect saying guitar.
Chris Rano says you can add lights in Mir, right? Yes, you can. After Effects lights.
Yeah, you can.
Do work in Mir.
That's what I was going to say.
He says one specular light and a tiny bit of light wrap over the blue background. You'd never guess it wasn't rendered. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's check this out. What have we
Carlton
got here?
wants headphones and earphones. New Mako says caw. Chris Frano says a skull. We've already done a skull in his
We've already done a skull, so I'm going to skip the skull.
Jason says Mac and me. No.
Mac and me.
We'll get to stereoizing other things later. See, this is kind of cool. One thing that I've found is very helpful is if there's a lot of is having a lot of negative space around your object. Can be very helpful.
Then don't do that guitar.
Yeah, like it's a cool picture, but it's a little bit.
You can't fill out the rest
already
of that.
extreme.
You can't fill out the space with AI.
I mean, you can.
All right.
You kind of can. You can't make.
Look at that cool guy.
Everything.
Never mind. I'm not going to make fun of stock models on a live YouTube show. That's not fair.
I have comments on several of them.
Okay. What are we liking? This one is okay.
Better than the other one?
Right here.
It's cut off on the edge, though.
I guess it is cut off on the edge. I guess I could do this one. I don't feel like there's enough cool depth cues in here.
But actually, that one, the one I'm so obsessed with, probably isn't good because it looks like the shot you're going to end up getting with whatever you make.
That's kind of what I think too. Yeah. It's bizarrely the less interesting the shot is, the more interesting the 3D extraction.
How about a toaster?
A what toaster?
A toaster.
Ooh.
That comes from Patrick Adkins. Thank you.
I'm curious about the toaster. But we could create basically a Fight Club shot, I think.
It's great.
Okay. I kind of like that. All right.
You could also put wings on it and make it a...
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to download this. I'm just going to download.
That's the one you pick.
It's perfect. It's a great product shot. We're just demoing that.
Like the ugliest one. So, why are we both sinking into ourselves over the course of this show?
It's so great. Let's save this element as a kitchen just to differentiate. Okay, so should we try this timed to see how long it actually takes to do?
Oh yeah. All right. Let me know when you're ready. Well,
okay.
I mean, I only have timers that are like start at a certain time.
5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Okay, so if you had 5 minutes and someone was like, "Hey, here's a picture of a kitchen. Could you run that neural filter on it, and that it'll like create another depth mat and things?" Then you can say, "Yeah, this is my depth mat. This is my image." You don't even really need to rename them. That was kind of that's lost time. We're not getting back.
No. A little bit of time naming your stuff up front.
Always rename things. Name things. That's why I made the Whirly scripts.
It's true. So if you were in here, then and you'd set up something like this already, or you'd grabbed this piece from because I'm going to email it out or whatever, since you all love email or something. Just go into this template, throw the depth map in there. Let me hide that one. Whoops. What is the right shortcut for hide? I just did it. There we go. So there's that, the depth in there, the image in here. And then if you go back into Mir where these are already connected, hey, check it out. Let's get rid of all this camera movement and create a new camera. Let's get rid of whatever the Mir. I don't know why Mir.
I love that picture got dropped into the.
Is it rotating? Oh yeah, I forgot I animated the shoe on its own axis too. So I'm going to kill all of these keyframes. So half of my time is just going to be killing keyframes. But the bottom line is, if you had this basic setup and this template saved, or maybe a script that I'm going to make that does this with an image, or with a depth map and an image, then you just toss it in here and you go. And now you have a David Fincher shot. Check it out.
We both at the same time.
I mean, this is remarkably Fight Club-esque right here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So and what you would do in that? Let me see. I don't remember how much camera animation there is.
A crap load.
A crap load. So obviously, every model is different. Treat everyone a little bit differently, as they would like to be treated. So let's add some keyframes to this camera. We can add one position here, one there, and then over the course of time, I'm also going to add some keyframes to the amplitude, because I think it would be kind of cool if it started out kind of flat, like your world is kind of boring and your camera were,
Time is half gone. You're at 2:30.
Time is half gone. Okay. Well, let's say, life is a little bit boring.
Okay.
And then that's all. Goodbye, folks.
Thank you for watching.
And then suddenly your world expands in some way that you couldn't possibly understand, and so the world is literally growing around you, and you find yourself flying out of a Starbucks cup garbage verse. That these jokes make sense to everybody.
Michael's face went to where you were going. It looked like we could just zoom in on his face and like into his nose and see everything he was. All right, that's it. That's all the things.
I'm gonna cheat. I tried to do it slyly, but I wasn't actually on Alt. I'm switching to 8-bit because I don't care for the thing. I just want the fast feedback. So
fast feedback.
So check it out. Like, this is ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
Like, I know, like, I was going to do something more commercial, but like, this is fun. And like, how much time do we have? We still have like another minute left. So we've got all this craziness going on. And it's in 3D, and I love that. And I could even add like, hey, look, it's still Fight Club, right?
Yeah, it is.
Chris Vrano says this technique would be super forgiving with organic things like fruits, vegetables, plants, food, etc., and is clearly both hungry and excited.
Yeah.
Frig
get some lunch,
says
man.
that they have 30 folders on various drives called stuff. No idea what's in most of them. Yeah, name your things. And Late Night Pines says you guys are awesome.
Well, thank you, everyone. Let's see. Speaking of, what did I say? Tree on this one? What did I call it? Jaws.
Jason Murphy says you could probably fake reflections with a bit of extra work. Yeah, there are a couple ways you could do it. You could do it with a flipped copy of Mir, like the same way you do, faking any sort of reflections with Mir or Trapcode particular. Flip a camera in a separate comp, blah blah blah. Or you could just use VFX Suite's reflection and be done with it.
It's true. See, look at all that extra time we had. We've just been like hanging out in the meantime.
Now, if you want to get crazy,
PSA,
you
though,
could.
Sorry, a quick PSA. Name your files, people. Name your files in your folders. Oh, your time's up, Hosh. You did it.
It's amazing. So assuming my Dropbox, then, the client has that.
Yeah,
that stupid
done.
thing of a toaster.
5 minutes.
All right,
But,
so that's
you
fun,
could do this
right?
in Cinema 4D. Like you wouldn't have to do this in After Effects. If you wanted like full 3D with reflection stuff, you could do the same technique in Cinema 4D using the depth mat as displacement of a plane in.
Yeah, but
Cinema
that like
4D.
breaks the whole thing we're doing here, which is
this is more fun.
It's cheating and it's more fun. Now, Hashi, I've waited long enough.
Okay.
I think that it's time that we take this 3D to the next level.
What?
That's right. We're gonna talk
Okay.
now about how we can take these various depth maps, and we're going to use them in After Effects to create anaglyphic 3D scene. Fun fact: if you have anaglyphic glasses, put them on. Our show is now actually in 3D. At least this scene is. If you have epilepsy, I'm real sorry we did not warn you. Wow. But what's next? What are we doing?
So what we've got here is something that I also I actually posted this. This is a very popular scene from a show. I don't know what show. I don't know who this is. But
My Guy Friday.
It's a great show. I love
Dragnet.
this show. It's called It's Wednesday. You know it's Wednesday.
yeah, I know that it's Wednesday. So this is Wednesday,
she's
and
popping out of the
I wanted
computer.
to since people like this scene, I wanted to see if people would like this scene, with extra dimension. So I've made an anaglyph 3D version of that. So here's Gwendolyn Christie in beautiful 3D. It's like you could reach out and touch her. But let me find. Let's see, where are we doing this effect? So I'm going to try to increase the effect of this effect. Just give me a second here. We're going to, how did I do this? Wednesday left and Wednesday right. Okay, Wednesday left. Let's add even more displacement. Let's displace this by 19 pixels that direction and by -19 here. I will describe what I'm doing in just a second. Don't worry, everyone. Okay, so I've now increased the amount of depth that we have in this 3D scene, and it might look even betterer. Whoops. Like this.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's probably more appropriate for the size of a monitor. Depending on what type of destination your 3D file has, you want wildly different amounts of convergence and separation between the two eyes. In a movie theater, this much conversion would give you a splitting headache. But on a monitor here, it's actually not too bad. It's a very short visual distance.
I'm actually having a blast. I'm sitting here thinking like, oh, that hand comes up? That was fantastic.
It's so wild, right? And so
Like you two are really enjoying this, and nobody.
no one has.
Anaglyph 3D.
Yeah, we should really warn people in marketing that we're going to do.
Hey, I warned them like a minute early.
No, Hashi and I talked about this, and I'm going to say in case we don't ever get to do it, but I think 3D would be the perfect, anaglyphic 3D would be the perfect fun topic to do for an NAB live VFX and chill, where in person, we could hand out VFX and chill 3D glasses. We can say, put on your 3D glasses now, and then throw merch at people. And I just think it would be incredible. Look at that. That's so cool. You guys put on these anaglyphic glasses. This is so cool, Hosh.
So let me go play with the, I need to fix the conversions. It's a little bit high.
Holy crap. That's so fun.
Here. Okay. So let's put the convergence like this. So let's put the,
I just want to clarify. You are essentially the process you're doing is you have the original source, you have the depth map, and you are taking that depth map.
Now that that depth map.
You're displacing. So I want to actually say it, see if I got it right. I'm guessing.
Oh,
you put displacement map. You basically made two different layers, one for each eye of the original video. You're putting a displacement map effect on it, and it references your depth map, and you're offsetting each of them by an equal number of pixels to left and right. Then you're using the 3D glasses effect in After Effects to reference those and create red and blue anaglyph image. Is that right?
Now you've got it. That's right. That's perfect. So
I just wanted to be right. Thank you.
it's amazing. So like this is a lot of fun to do. So I don't know if this is about the right size within your monitor. It does feel like it's actually a lot of separation, and I would probably turn it down a bit.
No, don't turn it down. I'm loving this.
So obviously these scenes were not filmed or intended for stereoscopic consumption, but we are approaching an age where you could do this using AI technology. So let's
approaching an age. You literally did it.
It's true, but there are some real-time demos of this being performed on footage.
Sure.
So like TVs will be able to do this, and not the way TVs could do this in 2006, like the way that TVs could literally do this in the future.
They could literally add extra frames for us to make it smoother.
They could. If they can do that, like you could like be watching a movie, but instead of that annoying steppy 24 frames per second, like an idiot.
Yeah, I always get sick when I watch regular movies.
Just crank that motion smoothing up to like 120.
Yeah, my eyes can see all those frames. Absolutely.
If you're trying to kill Viziri, I think you succeeded.
Yeah, all of our audience
somewhere every time you turn motion smoothing on, Todd Viziri dies a little.
He dies every time. There's not a little bit of chipping away. It's full on death.
It's the Princess Leia, like forced connection of just like you just feel like a sunken feeling in your heart, like someone
Todd Viziri died again.
Someone sought it out and turned it on a TV that wasn't default. All right. So I would love, and I should have said this earlier because of our delay. It makes for a weird live show experience, right? I would love to convert something else into 3D for you all so you can see kind of what the process is of us doing that. Just from the very beginning all the way through.
Back to the Future.
Exciting 3D mode.
The whole movie.
One whole movie. What is your favorite
Back to the Future. Let's just do the whole thing.
Actually, I know. I might have something.
Are you going to take a clip from Avatar
already? Wait, what was that?
You should take a clip from Avatar and just do our own 3D.
I did think about it. A clip from Avatar. And we can be like, you guys filmed this with stereo cameras like suckers. And by the way, while there was a version of Hashi that was like, if you can practically shoot 3D, that's clearly the best because you'll have, like two actual distinct views of something instead of like distorted, displaced, whatever, fake 3D. But it turns out that I'm not naming any names or listing any specific Avatar movies, but it's really likely that if you shoot practically in 3D, if it's a high visual effect movie, like a Marvel movie or an Avatar movie, you're really likely going to go back to roto and fake 3D displacement maps instead of actually using your two camera views. But you didn't hear from me.
Oh, I was waiting a long time. You felt like you were going to really drop a bomb there, and then I realized you did it just over the course of a minute.
But my like three friends at Real D are like, hey, you weren't the same.
Did you just name names? You said you weren't going to.
And they live at
Jason Murphy's house.
All right, I got completely distracted because this episode is so fun. We're popping 3D glasses on and off, doing craziness.
Can we D3D the show for this little?
Yeah, we can D3D it for a second here.
Why is it giving you a heart attack?
It's just
you're just feeling you're giving you FOMO.
All right.
FOMO 3D.
Back to good old 2D. Back to double D, as they call it.
They do call it that.
What?
I am going to look for, let's see, where is it?
Anything else? It means 2 dimensions.
Oh, come on.
I've not done anything this show. Has the audience figured that out yet? That I'm just watching Hashi do stuff this episode?
Hey, I think that we promised that in the description of this episode, that's
Seth,
what we were going to be doing.
We promised. Seth won't do anything.
Oh, okay. I was looking for Never Gonna Give You Up because we did it for a Raptor video, but I can't find it. Oh, no. So here's what I'm going to do for y'all. Since he won't release this in 4K yet, like, first of all, what the heck? Release this in 4K or on some digital format.
Can we play that Smiley Ed Harris clip just on a loop?
Yeah. And now I'll turn the eye contact filter on.
And that was the last time Ed Harris smiled.
You know what,
In fact, he's not smiled since.
You know, it's actually a really cool like eye contact technique if you need it for something is just a slight liquefy brush, and then you can keep all of your, look at that. Then you can just keep your.
Hashi, why didn't you?
This is what people
Hashi.
Come here for, Seth. This is
Hashi,
what they came here for.
Do you remember 2 days ago I pulled up a plate I was working on for my own movie and I said, I've just spent 5 hours on this specific thing. You never once were like, if you just pull out the liquefy tool, you can do it in 2 seconds.
I'm not going to tell a feature film director how to do his job.
I'm going to lose my mind. That was half a day I spent doing it the overly complex way.
I can't remember what tool I saw that showed that you could adjust eye lines just by liquefying them over slightly.
Oh my God.
I was like, you didn't like cut out like roto the eye and do a thing and do whatever. You just like tick, tick.
And then you could have full facial tracking. I did like, oh my God.
All this stuff. So yeah, just do that instead.
This is a handy little pro tip that snuck in there.
Pro tip. Okay, so let's find a couple of, since James Cameron does like 3D stuff, let's find a little clip of this where I don't want to do this whole clip, but I want to find a section of it that is interesting in 3D. Okay, maybe this little section right here. We'll start with
curious how the watery thing is going to work.
I'm curious about that. There have been some surprising results out of this, actually. I'm going to start on this shot right here. I'm going to do this reaction bit through right here. That's a good end right there. Okay, 30 seconds or so of this. So here is where you get into a little bit of annoying trouble if you're using Photoshop. If you're using Photoshop, you could export this as a JPEG sequence, and you can do like I actually did for these kind of things, create an action that just runs the neural depth filter on every single run of one of them, and just go file, or what is it? It's file, automate, batch, and then run your action that just runs neural depth on them, saves them, and closes them. And then you'll have a depth map version of all of these frames. But I am going to cheat. So let's, what are we going to do? We're going to trim this comp to the work area. Now, there are several several AI tools for After Effects that actually make use of the Midas build for extracting depth. So I have one here that we've actually used on the show before. Let's start with this frame right here, and we'll apply Depth Scanner. So Depth Scanner is going to apply.
This is a really cool tool. I've been using this since yesterday when you showed it to me, and I can't stop messing around with it.
It's a lot of fun to mess around with. I'm going to see, it loves using your GPU, and so I'm going to see if it has an issue running nicely while I'm also Skyping. Because
by the way,
Skype
fun
is
fact.
Also very heavy.
Fun fact, I opened up that shot that we were talking about this week where I did the eye replacement the different way. And Liquify does not work for that shot because of the layout of the actor's eyes.
I killed it.
Vindication.
All right, so this is what happens when you try to demo other people's plugins on a Maxon show. You're going to get some weird results.
Too bad.
All right, so yeah, starting from scratch, as if I had done no work for the last 8 minutes, we're going to import that clip from Raptor Assets. What have we got? Where was it? The Abyss. Okay, here's the Abyss. Let's do a little bit of a shorter section. I don't know. Okay. We'll start here and we'll end here. Okay. Composition, trim, comp, work area. That way we can just work with this little bit. I'm going to see how big this thing is, and I'm actually going to, just for the sake of the show, I'm going to make this 960. And I'm going to crop this whole video down a little bit until just have a smaller frame. What do you think this aspect ratio was?
2.3. Wait, hang on. 2.35 to 1?
Yeah, it is exactly that. So there we go. So I'm going to crop this just for the sake of this plugin. Let's save this just so we can reopen it if we crash again. What is today?
Crash.
Today is depth stuff. Let's save this as the Abyss. And now I'm going to...
Yes.
Suppose I'm going to...
Abyss this.
So, I'm muting myself. Sorry.
This Abyss.
Yeah, I can't.
Abyss.
Good gravy. I'm just trying to add this to the render queue, but I can't while I have Skype open. It just mutes me as many times as I've gone and
we finally figured out how Hashi keeps muting himself every single episode, every single Skype
time.
we have.
Okay, here's the Abyss clip. I'm just going to quickly render it out. Oh yeah, so we can all kind of watch it in pseudo real time. Look at that. It's amazing.
Folks, if you're planning to ever pre-render something to use in After Effects again later, please use ProRes and not MP4.
Yeah, this is reckless what I'm doing over here.
He's working fast and dirty.
And Chris Vranos makes a good note about that the way Midas works is no matter what, it's going to scale your image down to 300 and some pixels before it runs. There are some cool research papers going on that the one that I dropped in the Slack channel for you earlier today, Seth, there are ways to bring up the resolution. But today we're talking about what you can do at home for free with Photoshop subscriptions and After Effects subscriptions, I guess. So am I making any sense anymore? I feel like
Always.
I've confused everybody. Okay. So we'll just we'll put a cut point right here. Here's a cool clip from the Abyss that I'm going to turn into 3D, everyone. Check it out. I'll put it in its own little pre-comp. If I didn't have the depth scanner plugin or an equivalent, there are other equivalents that have come out on AE Scripts and various other places that you can get.
Michael, should we
plugins.
just leave him alone? Should we
But all you got to do is you could export these all as frames and then bring them over into Photoshop and run an action, do a file, automate, batch, and run an action that simply contains applying the neural depth effect to everything. That way you could do a bunch of frames in a thing if you wanted to. I don't know how flickery it might be. It's technically the same engine, but a little bit less control that way. If you have one of the plugins like Depth Scanner, let me show you what it does. It's going to think, and it might crash my computer, but it might not. There we go. Okay, so this is trying to, let's see, as I play, it's trying to live generate a depth map, not live, but it's a plugin, it's a filter. It is trying to analyze all of these frames and figure out what their depth is.
It's doing a surprisingly good job.
It does a surprisingly good job. I mean, this is the 2023 update to it, which is a lot more stable than I think we used it in one of our very first Loki episodes or something like that. So
we did use it. It was very flickery. This is so much better.
So in a lot better. One of the drawbacks of the Midas system is see how the edges of the frame have this weird gray halo. That's a drawback of Midas specifically. It has that issue. And the more you can have it do more samples, but you'll often still get that helped it a little bit, but you get these weird kind of things. But it's actually for stereo, not really a big deal. You can have this enhance the images a little bit, so here's where you can see the nice 360 pixels MP4 worth of quality here. But this is a slightly more detailed depth map, and that's kind of cool. And I'm just going to, instead of pre-rendering, which would probably be, should I pre-render this and waste everyone's time?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do this. So this is how you pre-render a clip. You go up to composition,
Hang on, while
Add
you're
to render queue
while you're
as
doing
an
this, I'd like to
MP4
stop,
for Michael Zalapsky.
Stop it. Go. I wanted to comment on something. A nice update that After Effects has done. They've made right here on this list. They've updated this whole list with nice newer presets. First of all, you get the option for MP4 right out of After Effects now, which is fairly new. But also the high quality options now use ProRes by default instead of using uncompressed AVIs on Windows, which was a pile of trash that nobody ever wanted.
So like if I didn't know what I was talking about, but I just wanted a high quality output, it's going to output a QuickTime in the ProRes format. Look at that. Thanks, Adobe. All right, so let's render this. Let's see how quick this happens. Insanely fast. How fun. How fun. You're watching these depth maps be born in real time-ish. Or before your eyes is more what I meant.
Axon Media Seattle says, Depth Scanner is great for what I call poor man's relighting and compositing some magical effects when combined with Rotobrush. Yes, indeed. You can get a lot of cool stuff out of it. Jason Murphy says they put a flicker removal plugin on top of the depth scanner output to help even more. Ooh. Or Photoshop output, whatever is flickering on you. There are some plugins that help remove flicker that are out there. Amazing, After Effects even has its own auto leveling that may or may not be helpful.
Auto leveling can be helpful for giving you a consistent like front point and back point.
Yeah, you just have to track a point for it to be tracking.
Mm-hmm. Some of those, I was demonstrating that in this Groundhog 3D clip that I did yesterday.
I love this thing. I love this thing.
Wait, I'll pull up the stupid Groundhog Day thing. What was it under? Probably under Renders, Groundhog Day. Check it out, everybody. Oh. In case you were ever watching Groundhog Day but thought, I wish I were more like immersed in this space. Here's what you could do. You could use this exact process to immerse yourself entirely in the live.
It's the floating
in the moving footage from.
It's like the floating window with a platform that makes me like want to use this for our VFX and Chill season 4 intro.
I think that we should. I think it would be fun to film our own assets and then do this with it.
We have an idea. I'm going to give it away on the show with our idea of like adding hands to everything, like holding Star Wars spaceships and like moving cars around. It'd be fun.
Be delightful.
Look at that depth.
Okay. So yeah, now we have two amazing assets. So we've got the actual Abyss clip, and we've got our it didn't have a post render action to import itself. Where did I save it to then?
Name your files.
Dang it! Why is that a lesson that I have to learn? I don't want to learn that lesson. Okay, where'd you go? Output to depth. Oh yeah, I keep on forgetting. I'm doing a tutorial on this thing, and I'm doing the VFX and Chill on it. So they have similarly named folders, and I keep on thinking I'm losing stuff. So
I also want to point out, by the way, that you can have After Effects set up to have a whole token structure so that it will save relative to your After Effects project file. You can save to whatever your preferred folder structure is. So if, for example, you have your main project folder, and then there's a folder for After Effects projects and a folder for After Effects renders amongst your folder structure, you can have your file saved, your After Effects file saved here, and then After Effects can have these tokens to say, save the comp name up a folder level, down a folder level.
That was the wrong button.
Whatever your preferred folder structure is for your workflow. You can have it all done just automatically, so you never have to name or find files again. If you just take like 5 minutes to set it up in the beginning.
That sounds like a lot of work, that 5 minutes. So I'm going to
saves you hours.
So I'm going to ignore you, Michael. I'm going to hide all of this stuff that I don't want to see anymore. I don't want to learn.
We don't want to work.
Justin Leduc, we are playing with depth maps, and we started the show by faking 3D product shots and other fun things and cool stuff, and now we're turning non-3D movies 3D.
Like Avatar. So this is the class from the classic film Avatar. I'm making it 3D, but
you did.
But with a velociraptor.
I remember this scene. So tender.
It is. It's such a tender scene. I've lost control of my camera.
That's okay. That's what Jim Cameron is always running around saying.
It's always like, Avatar, boop-a-doo-doo, high frame rates. All right. Now.
All right, so back to this other James Cameron movie. We're going to make this movie that wasn't conceived in 3D into 3D before he can do it.
Right.
He probably had a team that already did it, right?
When they filmed it, it was all flat. The people were flat. The locations were flat. Everything was
This is a piece of cardboard.
If you came at it from the side, you wouldn't know it was there.
Exactly. All right, so I'm going to take the depth map that we just generated and the original footage, and I'm going to put them in a single composition. And then I'll drag that up here to my comps. And there are several ways that you could do a 3D pipeline. My favorite is to have two pre-comps that represent the left and the right eye, and then move them into another pre-comp that is using the 3D glasses effect to either put them into a side-by-side, over, under, or anaglyph view. We're going to use anaglyph because that will lend itself well to this web format in just a moment. But let's take a look at this pre-comp. Very exciting. It's just a piece of footage, and right below it is its depth map.
Yeah, that depth map doesn't look great on its own, by the way.
Doesn't look great.
No.
So what we're going to do now is a little bit of setup. So I'm going to this bottom effect, I'm going to jump in and add, what's it called? A little bit of blur, some fast box blur. And I'm going to switch it from, let's see, I'll just reveal it so you can see it. Here's the depth map. I'm going to make it a horizontal blur. That way, later I have the ability to do this kind of a blur. Because
stop doing that. Stop doing that. That's
a lot. It's a lot. So let's just do it. Like I'll set it at 1 right now. Okay, just a little teeny bit of blur, and that's going to help us. So now, if I go to my top clip here, I'm going to add the built-in effect. I'm just going to use all built-in effects here. Distort, displacement map. And once you've done that, you select the depth right here, and you say effects and masks, so it's respecting that fast blur. And then you want to set this value on vertical to 0. You don't want any vertical separation for a stereoscopic image. So I'm going to say off and set it to 0 just to be safe. And then for the horizontal displacement, I'm going to use the luminance value. So now, this is the crazy thing. Let me find, here, this could be a fun shot. So now, it's being displaced by 5 pixels, but it doesn't look very obvious that it is to you. But as soon as you go up here and start sliding this around, look at this. We've got like just enough control. And like you can see that if I turn this all the way up, it goes crazy. It's just
Michael,
a displacement map.
What episode did we talk about this? We had a special guest on that week, and I'm blanking on who it was.
Oh, I don't remember.
Michael, who was it?
Oh, asking me about people is a bad idea.
They were showing us intros they did.
Was it John? Was it Doug?
No, it was for a TV show.
I don't remember. So
anyway,
so basically, you can set this to a negative value, and you'll see it's as if the camera were moving further to our left, right? So that means that a negative horizontal displacement will represent our left eye. So let's set this at, you can see that at some point you'll see these kind of halos and things wrapping around, and that's just because you can't displace the pixels beyond a background that doesn't exist. But one crutch you can try is fast blurring the background a little bit, and you'll see that it makes up for that a little bit.
Penelope Netherlander, sorry, that was the episode.
Oh, excellent.
Check that out. We talk in depth about how she used this for... in
depth.
Yeah, in depth. Depth.
So,
all right.
I think I might have even tried to do a depth map thing in Mir really unsuccessfully at the end of that episode.
We've done this episode
embarrassingly. We're sorry, Penny.
We're not.
So let's call this Abyss Left. And then one kind of cool thing you can do now in After Effects is you could go to this displacement amount right here. And then, you know what? I don't want to deal with any of that right now. I'm wasting too much time.
Hang on. Are you setting up an essential property? Because I don't think that's a waste of time. No, that's not a waste of time. That's a good tip. I'm using essential properties like crazy in my current freelance project.
Okay. So this is a value that will control the interocular distance. So if this is -11, the right eye is going to be +11, and your interocular distance is 22 pixels. That's how much separation there is in the depth that you're creating across this thing. And your convergence point is, what do you want to be on screen? If you want something to look like it's on screen, it means that it is in stereo focus. That means that it's not being displaced left or right. It looks the exact same in both eyes. And so you want like title text and things like that, like you'd want those to be on the screen. And you also have the choice to kind of push things in and out of 3D space. But that's all very silly. So since we want to adjust this layer, I'm going to right click on that property, and I'm going to say add property to essential graphics. You'll see the essential graphics panel popped up here. And up here, I'm going to say this is the L displacement, just like that. And then I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to duplicate that whole comp, but I'm going to call this one Abyss R. And then under this one, I'm going to find its displacement map, and I'm going to set it to +11 just as a default for now. And I'm also going to right-click on its displacement and say add that also to the thing. Oh, it can't from two comps, right? Or can it?
I don't know.
Whoops.
So you would be sending it to, you set it up as a separate, like the main comp needs to be itself, and then in your master comp you would just
then in the master that's a null. What we meant to do. So ignore all that stuff. So this should just be Abyss displace. All right, so now that we have this Abyss displace model, we can throw it into its own comp. I know this is going to seem a little redundant. We'll bring in 2 copies of it. Let's call this stereo so we remember. Abyss, oh my gosh, stereo. All right, we'll bring in 2 copies of it, and now, sorry, Michael, this is right. So here, dang it, I need to remove that.
Justin Leduc says, this looks like a commercial for a huge water flosser. It looks normal size to me. And Chris Ranos says, is it good practice to keep the convergence point at the point of focus?
It's up to you. Your brain can handle it either way. The point of focus is often a good place to have the convergence point, but one thing to consider is the continuity of your stereo cuts, because likely you want your talking main character to be on screen or just slightly behind screen. It can be disconcerting if your character is always technically in front of what you consider the line of the screen. So your focus point might actually be pushed back. Wait, I just want to delete this.
I found when I'm watching 3D movies, the most effective 3D movies are where everything is behind the screen for the most part, except for when something that is not clipped by the edge of the screen in any, on any of the sides comes forward into your face, like a point of an arrow or a flying piece of debris or a hand. That then goes back and is attached to something that's behind the screen, because your brain is weird about things coming out of the screen and then clipping the edge of the screen at the same time.
It very much is. And you'll notice at the end of any 3D movie that you see, there's likely a stereographer on it. And their job is a lot like the cinematographers. They go literally through every shot and help determine how deep to make the shot, if it's a CG or displacement kind of setting, and where to set the convergence point so it's not distracting across, everything. I'm so mad about doing the displacement thing wrong. Whatever. It's just a little bit confusing. Okay, so I've brought in 2 copies of this one single layer, and the essential properties can be revealed, and so I can change 1 to 11 and 1 to -11. And then what I like to do is add a new solid that is on top of everything. And on this solid, I'm going to add the effect 3D glasses. You don't get to use this one enough.
No, you don't.
But very easy to use, I can say for my left view, I want abyss left with its effects and masks. And for right, I want 2 with its effects and masks. And then this, if you technically scaled it down or whatever, this is where you could do that. Like, it's on my iPhone Naked Eye 3D. What's it called? Free viewing 3D. But since we're here in the YouTube space, let's switch this to
yesterday. Essentially, it's magic eyeing.
Let's switch this to balanced red-blue. Boom. So now what we should have is basically this movie should be getting displaced in some 3D, which is kind of cool. It's coming out of the screen too much. I'm going to push it further back. The way I'm going to push it further back is not by messing with those displacement numbers, but up here in the 3D glasses effect is scene convergence, like we had said before. So as I drag up the scene convergence, oh God, I'm so sorry.
Oh.
I actually want this to be negative. A lot of the time, the scene convergence matches the left eye offset. So if I said negative 11, oh gosh, that's not right at all.
Yeah, try flipping the on the little check
for you?
Sometimes that works for me, but I don't know what I'm doing. By the way, I missed this very simple thing, so maybe it's worth repeating for other people. Your displacement levels for your left eye, you're going positive, and your right eye you're going negative, right?
Opposite of that.
Opposite. That's what I meant.
So let's see. Are these right? That's the abyss right. That's abyss left. And the scene convergence, I'm going to set -3. Let's try that. Let's try that, everybody. Oh no, maybe this was an unwise scene to do. Okay, this human face looks a lot better in 3D than what I was able to do with the CG one. But also, these are my makeshift glasses that actually aren't properly filtering out the red, so I don't know if I'm getting the right effect. How's it looking over there, Seth? So this is the way you should do stereo reviews, is you have someone on Skype on the other end.
Yeah, 100%. I was working on my own scene. Let me see how. Make that larger for me.
Let's see. I think what could probably help is I'm going to go adjust the blur. Really good. That I meant to add a keying for the blur on this.
Yeah, the blur you might want to put in the essential properties panel so you can control it from the main comp without having to fuss with jumping in and out.
Good point.
A keying for the blur.
Mm-hmm. Why can't I just remove this from this thing here? Because I could deleted a thing. Why can't I? I deleted the layer that this came from in the first place. I can't. Oh, you just press delete. I thought you'd be able to like right-click and say delete.
Justin the Duck says, from the movie's IMDb trivia section, it says that the original line spoken after seeing the monster is, "What are you?" As in, what are you and what are you? James Cameron fought to keep it, but the execs rejected it. Such a shame. R.I.P. to this amazing, timeless pun that could have been.
What are you?
Wow.
Man.
I don't know who was right there. That looks pretty great.
All in delivery. Whoops.
Wait, so what's your keying blur? I don't understand.
So I'm not keying blur, but I went back to. So remember that we have one piece that is just our footage where it's going to be displaced, and we have the depth map below, and it has a fast box blur on it. We added this box blur to our essential properties. We also added our displacement amount to the essential properties. That means when I bring this comp into this comp, there are two copies of the same thing, but if I twirl open their essential properties, I can tell this eye, which I've renamed left, to have a -8, and this one to have a +8. And in fact, you could even like link these and say like this one is always negative this.
Yep.
And then you could say that this box blur should always match this box blur because they should. And so then you now have the controls for how much displacement you have. So if this was just a very, very subtle number like -2 pixels, you get a little bit of 3D. And a sharper image, but just a little bit of 3D.
Whereas too much 3D, you get
much
with this
3D,
avatar
and
image that
warning, you can totally look away. If you turn up the 3D too much, you get into this weird category where you're seeing it gets weird. It gets weird.
You say weird, I say music video from the 90s.
Yep.
And you use some sound keys, make it real cool.
Just to reiterate, though, if you go to my screen, I'm on my screen. This is a way too 3D'd avatar.
It's gorgeous.
With raptors. I kind of want to just do a whole 3D, like take all of our raptor videos.
I forgot that original thing was. I've seen this raptor image so much. I forgot it wasn't originally a raptor.
Yeah, that this is an avatar.
It's an amazing moment. It's so incredible. Oh my gosh.
Frigby Chillweather or Justin Liddick is posting more stuff that is allegedly from the trivia section on IMDb. But I think it's just in there because Justin's typing it in to the IMDb trivia section.
Contributed by. All right. So,
hey, Hash, by the way, on 3D glasses, which what 3D view are you using? Balanced colored red blue?
I'm using balanced color red blue,
yeah, me too.
which preserves a little bit of the color. There are several different ones that work for anaglyph. You can technically use red blue. Left and right like this, just to see it kind of in black and white, but just get the stereo effect, which could look cleaner. Depends.
Yeah.
On what you see. I'm going to turn up the blur a little bit more and the displacement a little bit higher, and then converge it a little bit back and see if that very exaggerated version looks cool at all. I don't know. You might be getting too much ghosting at this level. There's also scene also has a lot of close-ups and not a lot of great actual depth in it beside really the foreground characters in the background. This one kind of does. You sort of have 3 different layers of depth. But anyway, that was a very long way of saying that you can use a depth map to do a displacement on something. And depending on your image, the AI will do better or worse with the result, as we sort of saw in that Buster Keaton example that I had recently pulled up.
Yeah. Chris Vranos mentions that you could use Mir with 2 offset cameras in After Effects, and yes, you could. Actually really handy to do. You would only have to do your Mir work in one comp, and then just use Essential Graphics to move the camera left and right. So yeah, you could do that.
It's true, and it would look something like this. I'm going to take off my glasses. You don't need glasses for this. You can take off your glasses.
This is actually a good place to kind of wrap up the show. Is there anything else we want to give the people, talk to the people about?
Basically, displacement maps are cool. Like in summing up what we've gone through, you can use a displacement map to fake a 3D model. You can use a displacement map to do a cool thing in Mir like this. Here's an example of using the video depth map in Mir, and I'm just kind of rolling the camera around. And obviously from the side it looks a little bit weird, but from this view it's awesome. And just as Chris mentioned, you could render this from a slightly moved over camera, and we could view this Mir render in 3D, because Mir is a true 3D object. Like, imagine a music video that was sound keys of a dance floor just doing this thing. Mike Diva, call us and we'll get this thing on SNL. I feel like this is a pretty good place to wrap up the show. I like that we got to play around with some cool technologies this week, and they all converged into one episode about depth. It makes me very happy. I'm glad we can see eye to eye on this. Is there anything left? Did we get everything right?
Get out of here, guys! I'm gonna pull the plug here, and it's a mercy kill. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Hosh, thanks for showing us all this rad stuff that you figured out this week.
Absolutely.
Please go subscribe to that email at Maxon. Please go watch our other shows. Ask the Trainer, Max on Color.
Demystifying
post-production. Absolutely.
Hands-on with Maxon.
Hands-on with Maxon.
So many shows. And also do a little bit of our work for us. You just shout. Well, shouting at your screen is not as effective as finding us on social media and asking us, or in the comments below, saying what you want us to do a show on, because we'll do our best to.
And not only that,
we might ignore you, like that guy who wanted to do the small head thing or whatever. But we
didn't ignore him. You literally gave the answer.
We were so planning to do it, and we still might for a future episode.
We might, but what's also important is what's also helpful is if you could not only tell us what you'd like us to cover on the show, but write 2 to 3 sentences describing it as if it were an upcoming episode in a way that could be copy and pasted into an email. That helps us tremendously. Write our emails for us. Everybody go follow Butt with Raptors on Twitter and Instagram, and hug your loved ones and have a wonderful weekend. We love you. See you next week.